Hello everyone, my name is Loco and welcome to another Grand Finals of Best of 5 series played in 2 versus 2. What I've got for you today is a game where we're starting off on the map Emerald City, spawning right here as Team Blue in the top left hand corner. Both of them have the Team Liquid horse spinning around apparently on the main base. We're first off looking at Elazer's main hatchery and then his ally. He goes by the name of Skillous. And their opponents spawning in the bottom right. First off, with the red Terran SCVs, we have none other than Spirit. And his ally, he goes by the name of MaxPax. They apparently don't have matching decals. No decals for them. Either way, this series supposedly is an absolute banger. And from what I've heard, the highest level of 2v2 that's been played so far. So in case you're unfamiliar, uThermal himself has been putting out monthly 2 versus 2 tournaments. And I casted the finals, I believe, for January, for February, and, well, the March version of the tournament just wrapped up. So I'm very excited to find out exactly what ended up going down. But what I've noticed in the games that I have seen so far, the skill level is climbing really fast. Back in, well, January, a lot of players were pretty decent. But now that players are becoming a little bit more in tune with one another, right? And they've got an understanding of what their ally likes to do and their tendencies. Strategies are very quickly developing. So I'm excited to find out what the highest level of 2v2 currently looks like. It's actually been a little bit since I've last seen Elazer play. I know he's been playing a variety of RTS games. Generally, actually, I would consider Elazer to be one of the most flexible RTS professionals, in the sense that he's very good at picking up a game and then immediately being good at it. Now, you may imagine that that is the case for all StarCraft pros out there, but that's... No, I've been in the StarCraft world for quite a few years. I have seen certain skills carry over very nicely to other parts, but let's just say that being good at StarCraft is highly specialized for the vast majority of them. But Elazer is somebody who can just play a video game and then be really good at it in just a couple hours of time. And I would imagine because of that, even though obviously this is still StarCraft 2, I can imagine that Elazer is a really nice ally to have in a 2v2 event. Skillous, of course, one of the highest ranked Protoss players from the European server. MaxPax, the highest ranked Protoss player from the European server. Spirit, a very high ranking Terran too. But I would imagine MaxPax and Spirit, in my mind, they're a little bit more rigid. Maybe that's not an entirely nice way. Like, in my mind, that's a compliment. Like, they're very Excel spreadsheety, right? They're very good at executing builds extremely well. And they're very macro focused, which is very handy in 1v1, but I'm not so sure if it's as useful in 2 versus 2. Then again, both of them are perfectly capable of early game aggression. We have seen MaxPax do some phenomenal micro over the years. But if I had to pick a favorite team here, I think I would be leaning towards Elazer and Skillous, just because I think they're going to be a little bit more flexible and a little bit more... Well, they have a little bit more variety in what they're really good at. Lovely grenades over here, though. They really want to try and see if they can kill a Stalker, but the Stalker is a beefy unit at this stage in the game, yeah. Skillous does not really care. He just stands his ground there. In the meantime, though, okay, we do have an Adept in red from MaxPax, trying to be a bit of a nuisance. MaxPax now following this up as well with a Oracle, so no Blink Stalkers from him, even though he's very good at it. We've already learned that in 2v2, well, obviously, Stargate builds, in particular, Phoenix builds are phenomenal. So, we'll have to see how this plays out. There haven't actually been a lot of Zerg players, I feel like, in all of the games of 2v2 that I've seen so far. So I'm not exactly sure how useful Mass Phoenix is going to be against Zerg, because obviously it will still take the same amount of energy, whether or not you're lifting a Zergling or whether or not you're lifting a Siege Tank. Then again, though, if you don't have anti-air, Phoenixes and Stargate play in general is very powerful. So I'm mentioning this because Skillous is the one going into Blink. MaxPax is the one going into good old Skytles. He's already got himself a second Stargate, and he's going to start pumping those units out. Now, by the way, there are some adjusted rules in this particular event. If I'm not mistaken, the resource sharing is only kicking in at 7 minutes of in-game time. So if you're trying to share resources in a normal game of 2v2, there is a time limit on that too. But they've been adjusting the values for this particular tournament series. They are also working around actually using some sort of taxation system. So if you want to send resources to your ally, yes, you can. But also, you might have to pay a little premium. Maybe not a bad system. Maybe not a bad system. Even inflation is hitting in StarCraft 2 now, dude. It's crazy. All right. Phoenix is going in. Not the case, by the way, here. So 7 minutes of in-game time, 0% tax. Phoenix is going in, lifting a drone. Obviously, mass Phoenix builds have been played as well in the past against Zerg in a 1v1. Not particularly common anymore these days. Blink Stalker obviously is going to be very handy though, but Skillous is going to have to be in the right place at the right time. Worker-wise, you can already see Elazer is skyrocketing ahead in that department, using those larvae to his advantage, and he'll be able to start building up some of his own troops in just a moment. Another stasis ward attempted, but this one not going to achieve all too much. Phoenix is in the meantime inside of the main base, but double Spore Crawler here for Elazer. So far, MaxPax and Spirit, they're not really achieving too much. I mean, they've been macroing, so a third Nexus is now finishing up here. We already have a third command center too. But across the board, not really that much has achieved, but you know what? You should always double down, right? When you're playing, say you're making mistakes in real life, or maybe you're thinking about pivoting, that is an idea, that is a plan, but you could also double down and just continue doing the same thing. So MaxPax is going to follow up the mostly useless Phoenixes so far with even more Phoenixes. And sometimes that isn't indeed the right approach. We already have a Spire building, though, for Elazer. He's not going to bother going into any Hydras. I think the plan is to go Mass Corruptor. And obviously, he is going to be very far behind when it comes to those, well, flying units. The only problem, obviously, yeah, this is some good trading here against the Stalkers. The only problem right here, though, is that once you do make a lot of Corruptors, and say all of the Phoenixes die, then what do you do with them? Do you just go Broodlords? MaxPax is going to make the transition towards something a little bit different too. Fleet Beacon now coming up. If this is indeed going to be Mass Corruptor, he could always follow this up as well with a ton of Void Rays. Void Rays are also a phenomenal choice. For now though, Elazer is just going to continuously drone, building 12 additional ones. Okay. +1 air weapons coming up as well for Max. Spirit currently starting to make the transition as well to even more economy, so he's just continuously building up. Playing a very Spirit-esque style, slow pushing with static defense, letting his ally clean up the dirty business here. Bit of a Zergling run-by attempted on the right side of the map, but not much is being achieved. What about this push, though? Yeah, Spirit has been mostly passive, but suddenly he swoops in and he seems to be able to get quite a bit of damage done. I don't think he's going to be able to get the hatch, but he does get a prism on his way out. Phoenix is still stuck in the top left-hand corner. Maybe recalling them is the right choice, Max. Yeah, they're kind of stuck over here. You can't actually move them, but yeah, recall. Very useful in that department. Already, though, Void Rays are indeed building. MaxPax must have had a glimpse of the fact that there is a Spire. So Corruptors are indeed out now. But obviously Corruptors, well, they're armored units, and that's exactly what Void Rays deal bonus damage against. Anion Pulse Crystals coming up. There's also obviously a Void Ray speed improvement that you can also research here. So ultimately, Max is going to go full Phoenix into full Void Ray. A very popular unit composition in Silver League, and apparently now also at the professional level. Well, you know what? As long as that prismatic alignment is available, it's really quite powerful. So that's that little progression bar that you see ticking down right now on the Void Ray. It's got a reasonably long cooldown. But whilst it's active, they're gonna just absolutely shred Corruptors. 2 Marines over here are left behind because apparently the rest of the guys don't look at explosions. Spirit's games once more directed by Michael Bay. Skillous is trying to find an angle here. Okay, he is going to commit, it seems. Is there not just a little bit too much, though, for the players in red? Well, I guess we'll just be about to find out. I am not really loving this engagement, though. All too much from the team in blue, although we have more reinforcements now coming up. Most of the siege tanks have already been dealt with. Reinforcing Marines coming around the site. Protoss Scion units here from MaxPax are still running away. And what I was kind of questioning here initially is turning out to be quite a great fight. Yeah, all of those Phoenixes are just mostly trying to play survival. And I guess with them out of the equation, Skillous could clean up the rest of the units. Because there really isn't anything for MaxPax on the ground. Caustic Spray is obviously also something you can do. Although not usually used when there's a bunch of Marines nearby. Okay. Zealots going around the site. Some leftover Zerglings here as well on the ground. I'm actually surprised with how effective those Corruptors have been. it is not usual that we see really just mass Corruptor. It's Corruptor and then some leftover minerals spent onto Zerglings. But apparently that's all they really needed so far to deal with all of the Skytles units. Now, once more, though, the ground army is being chased away. The mothership is being destroyed, but Prismatic Alignment has been activated. And you can see that, indeed, a lot of those Corruptors are melting. Zealots going around the site, trying to charge into the mineral lines here. And suddenly, the team in blue is all over the red, but they still have to be careful that they don't overextend. So we've had 6 Void Rays going down the mothership, 10 Phoenixes as well. But I would imagine, yeah, we're just going to double down when it comes to that Skytles again. And there's a really good chance that if you overextend here as Elazer and Skillous, that Skytles ball is going to go across the map. And they are just going to shoot lasers at everything that you've got. Upgrades still coming up. Economy was reduced a little bit. And this is, don't get me wrong, certainly an advantage here for the players in blue, but I don't think this is one of those spots where you can't possibly be coming back. Elazer and Skillous, though, playing this out smartly. Little Zergling run-bys to shut down any outer expansions, and in the meantime, they're taking new bases of their own. Not really a great opportunity for Spirit and MaxPax to really retaliate and go across. They've just been trying to see if they can potentially, well, play survival. This little push over here is not going to achieve much, and I also don't believe that they're going to go home. Plenty of Corruptors to one-shot it. Although maybe the Marines can just run. Zergling run by in the meantime here as well. There's a lot of, well, Photon Cannons finishing up, and Phoenixes apparently need to be lifting Zerglings. Well, the base is safe for now. Warping inside of the main now too. Zealots are everywhere. There was a run by here too on the low ground in the natural. So whilst the Elazer and Skillous are mostly just building up their ecos, they're also very busy being absolute jerks to the opponents. Keeping them relatively small. They were even expecting, Elazer that is, another base over there in the top right. Yeah. Okay. Elazer now is maxed. So how many Corruptors does he have? He's gonna have about 34 Corruptors here and 45 Zerglings. That's his army. That would never be considered a unit composition in 1v1 because it just doesn't work. But in 2v2 and in team games in general, he can basically dedicate his entire army to purely anti-air. If he wanted to, he could maybe add in some Vipers, Infestors. I would at least be making a Greater Spire now. I don't think that'd be a bad play, but he doesn't even have a Hive. So they're still very committed. Okay, he starts up the Hive, as I mentioned it. Hydralisk then coming up, so maybe they want to go into Lurkers eventually. But MaxPax's Spirit have survived this, though. MaxPax's supply is... MaxPax's, rather, that's a difficult word. MaxPax's. MaxPax's his supply. He is looking pretty healthy. Spirit, not so much. Spirit wants to go into a Ghost army, it seems. Ghost obviously would be phenomenal against basically everything they're playing against. But it's expensive, and he doesn't have that much cash. Corruptors going in. I mean, with that many caustic sprays, you can get so much damage done so quickly. We never see this many Corruptors, man. I'm actually surprised. Yeah. Okay. More Void Rays. We're already up to 20 Void Rays, with 4 more coming. Storm will be added into the mix too. Spirit is, at this point, though, the one player lacking behind as far as the supply count goes. So Skillous has a ton of money, or at least a lot of income, and he's been building up a wonderful ground army. Very different, though, than what we see from his counterpart right over here in red. Oh, wait, was that... Hold up, was that MaxPax's Colossus? For a second, I thought that Colossus was red, but there's no way, right? No. I got a little confused there. Why was there a random Colossus in the middle of the map? Sometimes you do actually see the players with a bit of a knee-jerk where they're like, there's an enemy! And they just attack move onto the allied Colossus. No, this was certainly not an ally. I've done it before. I've accidentally killed my allied prisms. Not ideal. That's at least the one that comes to mind. Alright, apparently MaxPax and Spirit are feeling like they can actually be pushing in right now in a crazy engagement. In the meantime, there is also a Zealot run-by on the other side of the map. The third base is in trouble. Zerglings are running in as well, but those are, well, not quite properly upgraded. Honestly, the Skytles ball here for MaxPax is putting in a lot of work. At this point, though, Prismatic Alignment is on cooldown. Void Rays are still powerful, and they can still certainly be used, especially if the Marines are underneath. Okay, Void Rays onto the Colossi, Marines to kill everything else. I don't think there's enough. It's a good strat, but the numbers are just not favoring the team in red. Game number 1 is gonna go in favor of Elazer and Skillous, but they certainly had to fight for it. Next up, we find ourselves on Yellow Jacket. This is, of course, the map with the Yellow Jacket right in the middle. One of the ugliest looking map decorations I've ever seen in my life. I don't know why it looks like it was designed for the PlayStation 1, but you know what? I'm here for it. I like the hexagons. One of the very best geometrical shapes, if not the best. I mean, as a StarCraft fan, I'm inclined to the concave, obviously. Because the concave will always beat the convex. But when you think about it, a concave and a convex, well, I mean, they're literally, you know, the same side of a different... Wait, no, a different side of the same coin. Anyway, if you extend them, you would basically get a circle. So, does that mean an extended concave? Does that mean that circles are better than hexagons? Actually, how many sides are there over here? Okay, no, we're good, we're good, we're good. Thought for a second I was gonna embarrass myself. Hexagons are, of course, the bestagons. One of the very best, well, shapes you can ever go for. Anyways, let's see. What is your favorite? I need to be a proper YouTuber. What is your favorite geometrical shape? Leave a comment down below. When I log into my YouTube dashboard, sometimes I get like little tips, you know. Apparently, I don't really ask you guys to hit the like button all too often. Apparently, I'm supposed to be bothering you with that sort of thing. I need to be engagement baiting a little bit more. What is your favorite geometrical shape? Smash like and subscribe, gamers. Thank you. Appreciate you. All right, let's see. So far, nothing all too weird. All 4 players trying to play a macro game. I feel like that attack with the mass corruptors really did catch the players in blue off guard. Elazer just dedicating himself to building like what, 75 workers worth of economy and then making only corruptors is pretty wild. Like, you can't really do that in 1v1. It's just not really a strategy. You can't really stay alive, making minimum amounts of queens, making very few zerglings, no other tech other than, well, a spawning pool, and then straight into a mass corruptor. It's weird. But when you have an ally with blink stalkers, well, you can do a lot. So let's see. I mean, to be fair, zerglings are really powerful. I actually don't really know exactly how many queens Elazer is making these days, so I'm bringing that up because back when the new patch was first introduced, in 1 versus 1 in particular, so we do have a bit of a dance. It stays alive, but only just barely. Elazer initially with the new patch was playing 3 queen builds, like 3 or 4 queens at most, rather than the conventional 7 or 8. And while that never really caught on at the highest level of StarCraft, other than for the Elazer games, I believe he's still doing some of that actually these days too, although like I said, I haven't seen that many of his matches. Most of the top tier Protoss, or most of the top tier pro players with Zerg do favor a... What are we doing here? Why are we pinging the map? Alright, anyways. They do favor mass queen builds. So how many queens is Elazer going to produce? One thing to keep in mind in 2v2, you also can block your allied structures with creep, which is a little unfortunate. So if you spread creep all over your bases, yes, your queens are going to be able to move around. But also, it's going to be difficult for Skillous to build anything. It is apparently considered rude to be using your allied infrastructure. Zerg players are just willing to share. Now, this is nice, though. The Spore Crawler is not yet done. 2 queens available, but they were also busy dealing with that Adept. A lot of chaos all around. Yeah, 3 drones in total. Certainly not free aggression right here, though, from Spirit and MaxPax. Blinky boys coming up for both. So this is very much so still unexplored territory, right? Maybe against Terran Protoss, you want to be going Mass Phoenixes. And I do believe you can still make it work as well against Zerg. But it seemed to me that Elazer just had a really good idea as to what he needed to do, and It worked out brilliantly. Oh, good interception. Oh, what? How did you not die? I mean, that reaction speed from MaxPax was really quick, but I'm surprised that his Oracle even lives. Okay. So, both players, both Protoss players, that is, are going to go into the Blink this time around. However, Max is following this up now, too, with a Dark Shrine. So, we have a Dark Templar opportunity. Now, there is a Overlord slowly moving in. Yeah, that's not gonna happen, buddy. No, that's a really ambitious play. Do you think it's a promotion or a punishment to be turned into an Overseer? Like, in my mind, it certainly is a promotion, right? Because you're literally a fancier unit. But at the same time, you're also much more likely to be put in harm's way. And I do believe it's an honor to be turned into an Overseer. Unless you're in Rogue's army, because he makes like 45 of them. Maybe less exciting. Like, for a Zergling to be promoted into a Baneling? That sounds more like a punishment to me. Hydra into a Lurker sounds like a promotion. Anyways, MaxPax building what seems like a proxy over here at the 3 o'clock. They're ready to go for some pushing once more. Well, we do have Stimpak combat shields and all the rest of it coming up. +1/+1 here as well for Spirits, so they're going to be playing something a little bit more aggressive. In the meantime, Elazer is playing an entirely different style since they're not playing against mass, well, Skytos this time around. He's going Hydras into Lurkers. However, all of that is still in the oven, right? Like, this is still being cooked up. Maybe if MaxPax and Spirit hit an attack before Lurkers are out, this can deal a lot of damage. We have a very chaotic Blink battle over here, with some Marines and Zerglings trying their best. And with these sort of attacks, though, it means that MaxPax and Spirit are not going to be able to really do a timing attack, or any sort of attack, really, before Lurkers are out. And I've got a feeling that Lurkers are just going to dominate ground battles. A lot of the Zerg units are very single-focused, right? Like, they have, like, one thing they do really good. And Lurkers are phenomenal when it comes to killing, well, killing ground units. Not very flexible, but very good at what they do. Little group of Zerglings trying to hide in the bottom right corner. We do have a MaxPax gateway building here too. So he is going to try and just use this as maybe a way to warp in some Dark Templar. We even have Shadow Stride coming up. So Max hasn't actually made any Dark Templar yet as far as I have seen. But he is certainly planning on giving them a little pathway straight towards the other side of the map. Now Lurkers are out. Well, Marines going in around the site. There is, well, Lurkers and a Colossus. There's no way you guys are going to do anything. Nah, go home, dude. Maybe if you could find an opportunity where they aren't, you can go around them or something. But I really don't believe you want to double down on an engagement right there with Marines. Robo Bay coming up for Max, who I guess wants to be building up into a bunch of Disruptors. Really is the only thing that makes sense. Nice couple siege tanks over here on the high ground, though, from Spirit. No Vipers available yet here for Elazer. Oh, yeah, it's a slow burrow still. But it's good enough to be pushing those units away. The Elazer actually now finds this proxy. I'm a little surprised by this proxy, to be honest. Like, he was very committed to it, and then he just kind of awkwardly added a gateway, and then he never really did anything with anything. Bit of a waste. Although he will save it and build another pylon. Apparently, we are doubling down. Viper indeed coming up. Adrenal Glands also here building now and researching for Elazer. Big Zergling attack speed improvement. Yeah, Lurkers are just destroying the ground at the moment. We haven't seen, so there's a Dark Templar going in right now into the main base, but we haven't seen, like I said, a lot of Zergs in 2v2. Big drop in the main base. Okay, this is in the location where those Zerg units aren't, and even though the Lurkers are phenomenal, now the Lurker Den is gone. And the upgrade didn't even finish. So he does have the ranged upgrade for the Lurkers. But not the burrow upgrade. And that now is once more going to be a problem over here too. Although it looks to me that the Protoss army here from Skillous is close enough. Aggressive Blink to try and chase all of this down. And even though some of the tech just now got destroyed, Skillous and Elazer are feeling that they can actually go in for a push. Marines still being a nuisance, but very defendable with a bunch of lurkers in the mineral line. In the meantime, we do have a disruptor here getting sniped before it does anything. Some good EMPs to soften up some of those stalkers. Attack as well from the right here to try and get some, well, additional value. But good hold again by Elazer and Skillous. And lurker den or not, they're going to try and see if they can deal some real damage on the other side of the map. MaxPax has decided he wants to go for a Zealot run-by, but I'm wondering whether or not he needs those units at home right now. Bunch of ghosts here. Okay, get protected. Ooh, by some Nova. Stalkers and Hydras desperately splitting into one another. We do have a Viper available too. That one is not going to die just yet, although I don't believe it's going to get any spells cast. Most of the Zerg army has now disappeared. That means that it's, well, pretty much only Skillous' units available and still in this area. The Zealot run-by in the meantime in the middle of the map is getting cleaned up. Is there enough here for Skillous to push through? No, I don't think so. Those disruptors are going to be able to buy plenty of time. Lurkers going in around the site. Those were the ones that were previously in charge of protecting that mineral line over here. A couple Dark Templar now. Using their, well, some of them are caught in the splash damage actually. That's a bit unfortunate. But using their blink to get on top of those lurkers real quick. Bit of Colossus juggling as well by Skillous to get him up to the high ground a little bit quicker, despite the cliff walking ability. Ooh, aggressive blink forward too, trying to target fire down a couple of those disruptors. And he does get, well, I believe exactly a couple, but loses so many stalkers in the process. In the meantime, there's also an attack happening up north, as Spirit is trying to see if he can get some value. He does spot those lurkers, decides to back off for now. Push still going on in the middle of the map too. Lurkers burrow over there too, and Skillous is paying attention. Misrelieved Colossus again. Not quite what we want to see. And that indeed is going to be, well, shut down pretty much immediately. Okay. So what was looking like a phenomenal game for Skillous and Elazer is now no longer a substantial supply advantage at all. As a matter of fact, Spirit and MaxPax have been able to come back into this game. They needed some really, well, great engagements and some solid disruptor hits in particular. Those EMPs also extremely valuable. The run-bys, the multitasking, and just all of the harassment really is taking its toll right now on the team in red. And it seems to me that Elazer and Skillous are starting to fizzle out a bit. They certainly still have an army, and they're not out of this game yet, but Elazer has way too much money in the bank. So Skillous has way too much gas. Elazer has way too many minerals. Sounds like the perfect marriage to me, but maybe you guys need to learn to share. We need one shared mineral and gas bank account. That would actually be kind of cool, now that I'm thinking about it. Maybe it'd be terrible. Okay, big drop. Ooh, onto lurkers. Very risky. Unnecessarily so. Spirit immediately drops in supply. I don't know about that. Really not sure about that, although MaxPax still has a massive force. So he's trying to see if maybe he can continuously push her in the middle of the map. Not a great counter, though, against Zerglings. Zealots now also joining in. Novas are, ooh, a necessity here, and not so good against Lings, but pretty dang good against Zealots and Lurkers. MaxPax just bowling strike after strike after strike, but Spirit lost a big chunk of his army and can't really come to rescue him, so maybe those units in blue right over there from Max are also going to go down. In the meantime, we do have an attack again in the top left, some reinforcing Terran troops. They're going to be able to shut down that Nexus. Looks like the leftover of MaxPax's army has made its way back home. Zerglings finally shut down that proxy for good. So much action, man. Yeah, this is what happens when you have, like, what? 1,500 APM or so in in a single game. It's kind of a lot. A lot of very fast pro gamers. That's one of the things in StarCraft, man. Back in the day, you could be pretty good. You could probably compete at one of the highest levels of the game with like 200 APM. These days, not really a thing anymore. Although, obviously, a lot of the actions are, well, kind of useless and not really achieving that much. Effectiveness is still everything, but there is no, there's no denying that the majority of the pro gamers do play 350-ish actions per minute on average, at minimum. Zealots and Dark Templar once more have found an opportunity There is a base, though, in the far top left, but apparently it does not matter. Skillous, he can't hold on against all of this multitasking, and even though it's a Elazer with way less supply than the Protoss, they decide to both collectively tap out. What if MaxPax has indeed been 2 people this entire time? Like, we have Max, and then we have Pax. The perfect union of a Protoss player. A literal IRL Archon. That would make this a 3v2 rather than a 2v2. I would imagine, though, if you have 3 arms, that your APM would be way higher. Like, not just, like, you know, a third higher or half, like 50% more. You would have to have, like, twice the APM. Because you can have 2 hands dedicated to the keyboard. At what point do you have so much APM that your brain can't keep up? Because right now, obviously, the reason why players play fast is because they're trying to do a lot of things. How much APM is so much APM that your brain can't keep up anymore? That has actually happened when you play, like, when you play a lot of StarCraft, but your brain's kind of like AFK. When you haven't slept well or whatever, and you're just kind of going in full autopilot. Sometimes it kind of feels like your hands are moving faster than your brain is. Which is a really weird thing to describe, but I can't really say it any better than that. If you... Yeah, sometimes... Most of the time, your hands are the bottleneck, right? Not the brain. But sometimes it feels like it's the other way around, which is very confusing. Anyway, I've never been as fast as these guys. But naturally, that's one of the things. When you play, like say you play 10 games a day of StarCraft 2, naturally you will get faster over time. That's just kind of the nature of, well... Assuming no, you know, physical limitations or whatever, but most players will get faster as they play more. But when you have 4 players in a single game executing actions at like 350 a minute or so, it does get a little bit chaotic and a little difficult to find. Now, Skillous has decided to go for a cheeky little proxy here on Reclamation. This map is massive. And you can get a proxy really nice and early. Ooh. Spirit knows that something fishy is up. Oh no, Spirit! Oh no, dude. It's right there, Spirit! So Spirit was even pinging that section of the map, because he must have picked up on the fact that something was wrong. But he saw the probe, but not the structure. I mean, it shouldn't matter. He should still make defenses at home. But if he's not prepared... No, he's building Hellions. If he's not prepared, this Oracle could still certainly work out. Skillous had everything here. Well, scout it. This should have been a really easy counter. They still haven't seen it. Look. They have no idea. Finally, the SCV is going back in, but this is going to scout. Well, it's going to scout the Oracle after the Oracle has already made its way to the main base. Which is a little bit unfortunate. Let's see. How much work can we do, Skillous? Keep in mind, though, that those are SCVs, so they do take 3 shots to kill, rather than 2 shots for a probe and a drone. Micro? Skillous? Ah! Okay. Those SCVs were also a little terrified. We do certainly want to shift Q. Yeah, now he's run out of energy. He must have been busy on the other side of the map, trying to micro something else. Bit unfortunate, but honestly, not the end of the world. 5 SCVs is very recoverable. MaxPax now doing a little bit of a tour around the map, trying to see what's going on. Takes so long, dude. Takes like 45 seconds to get across with an Oracle, or at least that's what it feels like. So let me get this straight. In game number 1, we had Skillous going ground toss, MaxPax playing sky toss. Game number 2, both of them played ground toss. And now in game number 3, both of them are going sky toss? What's next? Next game we're gonna go robo across the board? Well, at this rate we can get there really quickly because those Zerglings are putting in some nice work. There's only a handful of Marines and there is a single Widow Mine, but they're not inside of the bunker. They don't make it in time. Okay, Widow Mine was spotted. He decides to just run the Lings away, but I wonder if we should have committed to the mineral line. I think it would have been the right call, because those workers were looking very vulnerable. Okay, in the meantime, Skillous also wins the air battle. Blink coming up now for Max, so he is transitioning away from Skytos. Well, I say that. He's also building another Phoenix here, but that's mostly just in a reaction to his opponent's Phoenix. Okay, drop here not achieving much. I mean, I'm not really loving this for Team Blue. They're just not really achieving anything here. I mean, the cheese was nice. The proxy was unscouted. I think maybe the reason why it was so half committed is because he thought that he had been spotted. There's a very real chance that since that SCV was there, he just assumed that he had been spotted. And then ultimately end up in this weird spot. Anyways, Elazer and Skillous are going to be able to go in again. We do have a Phoenix leading this. Oh, retarget. Nicely done by the Terran in blue. He retargeted with that Widowmine, because the Phoenix would have much rather ate that shot. So the Oracles could swoop in. Quick clicking there by Spirit. Recall is going to be used. And it looks like that Oracle is indeed going to be able to make its way back home and immediately get a nice little touch-up too. Alright. Elazer is now going into a unit that he hasn't produced yet. Mass Roach is going to be the name of the game. No upgrades, no Evo chambers. It is just a load of units. I mean, we're gonna go at least into the Glio Reconstitution, but no +1/+1, which usually accompanies it. Just Roach speed and an awful lot of Stalkers. Now, the Stalkers in red are also going to be able to get their... That's a really ambitious Banshee as well, going straight through the middle of the map. No cloak, no nothing. Anyways, it is going to be Blink. It's not going to finish up in time, but I believe they're going to go for a push right here, right now anyway. Blink is already done for Max, but he's the only one with an army. Yeah, there's like one siege tank here for Spirit, but that's it. Where's the rest of his units? Spirit has got 2 siege tanks and 14 Marines. Wherever they are, though, they're not over here. That means that his army is achieving an awful lot. Well, I guess that's the majority of them, but they're just kind of awkwardly following all of this behind. They're going to get split off from the rest of the pack, and immediately the Roaches gobble them up. It's pretty much only Stalkers now to defend everything. And while this has been very messy across the board, I actually really like that Skillous did not wait until the Blink upgrade was done. It feels weird to not be, well, hitting right when your upgrade's finished. As a matter of fact, the upgrade never finished, apparently. But they saw an opportunity and they grabbed it with both hands. GG. Yeah, so if any tumor gets placed down over here, it's going to be impossible for Skillous to actually make a wall off. And I've got a feeling that Zerg is not going to help him wall anything. So we should just see a gateway over here, and then I guess eventually we can wall all of this off, but it's going to be a little while. Yeah, it's funny, because these maps are so big... Oh no, that's misplaced. Eee. Does he not notice? Okay, he didn't notice. He selected the hatchery again, but he did not replace it. That is 1 square away from the mineral line. That's going to cost him. Yeah, because the maps are so big, when you don't see that the opponents are going for a committed push and you're just not in position, you get fights like the one that we saw in the previous game, right? Where, yeah, the entire attack was just so disjointed. Obviously, in the later stages with, you know, for example, Stimpack and Blink and all that, you can, at the very least, get to your allied army at a reasonable time. But, yeah, those Marines kind of joined in after most of the engagement had already taken place, which is a bit unfortunate. Do you think it's better to ball all your units together with your ally? Or do you think you should actually keep them split up? Because you want them to be, like, close enough that they could join each other, but not so close that I guess you can't see incoming attacks from multiple angles. That's one of those things, though, that will just go better with time. Now, we do have a proxy pylon, and I think this is mostly Skillous being a bit of a memester, because now it's MaxPax doing the scouting, and MaxPax is certainly going to count the amount of pylons he's seen. This is, however, still actually a proxy. This is a little bit funky. Ah, that's what we're doing. Okay, I thought we were actually just faking a cheese. MaxPax at this point has seen 2 pylons in the main base, so he believes that nothing is all too weird. But he hasn't seen a tech structure. But there is a tech structure. It's just hiding on the left side of the map. Still relatively close to home. They know that something is a bit fishy, though, because there's a secondary scouting probe now. MaxPax is trying to figure out what in the world is happening here. Okay. Yeah, they're looking at so many places. I really don't know if this map design is actually ideal. Like, all of the 2v2 maps already, they feel massive to me. I wonder if maybe there should be, you know, a little bit more of a dedicated map production cycle as well for 2 versus 2. I'm not sure exactly, but there are so many locations for a cheese. Wait. Maybe it's the doodad that's wrong. Look at that. Oh god, this map is so cursed. Unless Skillous also misplaced his nexus, I think the little graphic underneath the base is maybe not centered. Oh god, that's awful. If that's the case. Either that or both the nexus and the hatchery are misplaced. I mean, it doesn't look misplaced to me now. No, it looks right. Cursed. Very cursed. Alright. Somehow that's something that happens actually on quite a few maps, where these little indicators, right, are just not centralized on where the base should be. Like, maybe these are, I don't know, but it seems to me that... yeah, no, these are apparently not... Oh, god, no, they're not good. How does that slip through the cracks? Like, that's one of those things where I'm looking at it, right? I don't really make maps myself. I mean, I've messed around with the editor a little bit. But if that is already, like, not perfectly centered, then what else is wrong? Is immediately what I start wondering about. Anyways, we have Skillous here going for a good old Phoenix build. Phoenixes together with Zerglings, a very fast-moving army. MaxPax is going to end up losing a Stalker, it seems, although Stimpec is already done. No, Stalker actually stays alive. Okay. There is a shared wall, but the depot is down, so the Zerglings run in, although at this point it's mostly just here to be a bit of a nuisance. Plenty of units nearby for the players in blue to shoo away any of these troops. Yeah, mostly just to be a nuisance. So that proxy over here on the left side of the map was nice and all. It was a cheeky little play, but ultimately this is not really achieving all too much. Well, Elazer is building 5 gas geysers all at the same time. So this is the classic rule of 1 gas. It's when you saturate all your mineral lines on 3 bases with only a single gas geyser. And then when you hit the full saturation, you make 1 additional round of drones and then add all of the other gas geysers into the mix. It's one of the most effective ways to build, actually, as Zerg. You do get very mineral hungry, though, across the board, so you have to be a little bit careful, because you can start flooding. Even Elazer is actually flooding a little. So he's skipping the Roach Warren, it seems, which is a little bit worrisome, because MaxPax is already ready to go across. The Zerglings are going in right now. But this is actually the Terran here and the Protoss working together with a nice timing attack. Yeah, Blink is done. We have Marines on the low ground too. Those Zerglings are not going to be able to achieve much. Okay. Cool attack. Both players have apparently figured out a timing that works for the both of them reasonably well. Supply block right now for Elazer is also going to hurt. He's building a Spire, but I've got a feeling that they really need to be defending against what is happening right here, right now. And that Spire is not going to be useful until after this attack. It's a lot of resources caught up into something that isn't really that great yet. Ooh, that Blink! Those Phoenixes! Okay, Medevacs for the most part seem to make it out. Although, well, I believe actually half of them have died. Very ambitious play by Spirit, doing it by himself. Blink, though, from the low ground too. MaxPax trying to join up with his allies. And there is just an awful lot of stuff here. I'm kind of missing a Roach Warren. I think if Elazer had a Roach Warren here and he just made some units, this would be phenomenal. But he's got so many resources in the bank that holding this attack is going to be tough. Spirit and MaxPax are doing a great job macroing, constantly spending their money. Elazer may have a lot of hatcheries all over the map, but if he can't actually stay alive together with his ally here, it is all completely useless. Phoenix is joining in again, but nice usage here of the mineral fields and then also the Vespian gas geyser to block as many of those melee units as possible. Okay. Apparently we decide to run away with the reinforcing Terran units now hitting in the middle of the map. Spire at this point, by the way, is done, but what do you even build here? I'm not sure what the purpose of the Spire is. I guess he wanted to go mute us, like mute our Ling. That's really the only thing that makes sense, but, you know, he's been playing a pretty greedy set of games. In the previous match, we did see a Roach Warren, but I've got a feeling we may have needed one over here. We're still just going mass Zergling? I mean, maybe it'll work. MaxPax is being pushed away right now. Marines going in again from the high ground. Siege tank has been left behind. Reinforcing units, though, are going to be a necessity because those Zerglings are slowly nibbling away against whatever they can hit. Very aggressive game. Yeah, very aggressive. Elazer has got 2,000 gas. I mean, you can't save gas for the next game. That's a lot of gas. 1,200 gas, or 2,200 gas, rather. That's way too much. He starts up 2-2. Buddy. Maybe? I want to believe, but... I think he just started it because he's got so much money and he doesn't have a way to spend it. Okay, well, ultimately, it seems like they're pushing it away. I mean, if they can stabilize and Elazer can actually get around to making 22 mutas, that would be incredible. But I don't believe that is going to be easily done. Well, in the meantime, on the other side of the map, we have Terran and Protoss, Spirit and MaxPax still continuously expanding. So it's not like that was a committed all-in or anything along those lines from them. But you know what? The most important thing here for Skillous and Elazer is that they held. Finally, the piggy bank has been smashed. 7 mutas. Yeah, the annoying part... Ooh, oh, wow. I was just going to bring you guys up. The annoying part of those attacks is that you lose your footing and like all of the longevity when you lose the medevacs. So losing 10 medevacs here for Spirit, really painful. It means that you can't really continuously fight because every time you stim, you're also hurting your own units, obviously. Did Elazer send gas to Skillous? He must have. Yeah, he made 18 mutas. Did he pull out of gas? No. I don't think he pulled out. Okay. Let's see. I know Elazer has been very busy playing other games, though, like I mentioned. So maybe the macro is just taking a bit of a hit. Or maybe all of this was intentional. I mean, either way, he does have a stupid amount of mutas now. And he is finishing up 2-2. So all jokes aside, this is still a powerful setup. How well is the crisis management going to be? Like, how strong are these mutas going to be? How much damage can this Zerg army deal? Well, apparently not enough to really trigger any of these units over here on the other side of the map to retreat back home. Spirit and MaxPax have combined their forces once more to go in for a big attack on the other side of the map. 2-2 is only like, well, maybe 75% of the way done here for the Terran player in blue. Reinforcing troops, by the way, have been warped in and they have spawned out of the barracks to push away those units. Zerglings over here, 2-2 is done for them right now. Medevac drop goes to the low ground. Okay, Muta's coming back as well to try and see if maybe they can get some of those leftover, well, units that now get recalled out. Any siege tanks that are still here. This is working out remarkably well here for MaxPax and for Skillous and for Elazer. I'm a little bit surprised that this game is still actually as close as it is. That first attack from them looked incredibly promising, but they lost a lot of troops. More mutas. Okay. This is not quite mono battles, but I guess it's like duo battles, right? Where everybody gets to make 2 units. Maybe Terran gets to make 3, but for the most part, it's just a handful of units working together very nicely. We have a Dark Templar once more being a bit of a nuisance here too. Dark Shrine coming up for Skillous as well, but the one for MaxPax was quite a bit sooner. And this is going to cause even more chaos all over the map. And I feel like chaos really is what can describe this entire series. Nice recall onto that Liberator. It does mean, though, that some of these units have been left behind. Those Zerglings could be extremely vulnerable, although I think they're just looking to deal as much damage as possible before ultimately going down. MaxPax and Spirit are now maxed. Like, this is maxed packs and maxed spirit. Trying their best to see if they can shut this army down. And keep in mind, mutas are not very good at straight-up fights. There's a lot of anti-air here. Marines are great. Stalkers are good. Archons are amazing. Oh, he just killed one of his own. Oh, actually, no. That was Skillous' Archon. My god. Those Archons were very blue, but they had some red trousers on or something. I don't know. Hard to distinguish. Yeah, ultimately, there's just not enough for Skillous and for Elazer. And that means we are gonna go to the final game in this best of 5. And that final game, it will take place on a map called Arctic Flowers. Which team has been more impressive? I feel like across the board, Spirit has been a bit of a punching bag. In all the games we've seen so far, I feel like Spirit is the one taking the majority of the damage. But ultimately, you know, he's very good at playing that defensive style and never really, like, rolling all the way over, right? Like, maybe he will almost be at that tipping point, but generally speaking, he will always return back to a pretty playable spot. And Spirit has been playing that style in 1v1 for many, many years where, well, you're probably well familiar, right, with the strategies that he likes to go for. Rather than trying to end the games or anything along those lines, he likes to sit back and macro up and maybe take some more damage, but continuously defend. MaxPax a little bit more flexible here so far. Maybe it's also just Terran's role, though, in 2v2. The Terran units in general are obviously quite tanky. I mean, a lot of Protoss units can also tank a lot of damage, but they're not really designed with as much staying power. Like, if you send in a big group of Zealots, like, yeah, they're quite tanky, but they're quite literally also designed to be sacrificed. Elazer has been a bit of a wild card so far. Like, Mass Zergling, Mass Corruptor, Mass Muta, like, we're just really playing a very strict version of solo, or like mono battles rather. So essentially what he's doing is he's dumping all of his gas onto one unit or one unit type, and then he's, well, spending his leftover minerals on Zerglings. That's effectively what Elazer is doing. And it's difficult to predict exactly what the game plan is going to be. I think you should probably just stick to something basic, like Roach Hydra. That would be great. Roach Hydra is very strong. Evidently not what Elazer wants to go for in these games, but, well, maybe this game is going to be the one. Dude, this map is so big that the Overlord actually only just now arrived. A Marine is out there to kill it. Yikes. Oh! 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 Never mind. Not even close, baby. A solid 10 HP remains. Marine suddenly lost the vision, so I don't know how this makes any sense, by the way. It needs high ground vision. Maybe its neck mobility inside of that Marine suit is terrible. It just can't look up. At this point, it could sneeze and the Overlord would die, but not a possibility. Stargate here for MaxPax. No tech just yet for Skillous, because he's decided to go into the double gateway style. So that means he gets a lot of early game units. But are they going to be able to really do anything with it? Well, Zergling speed is just about to finish up. Skillous not really having an ally here who will try to join him with a ton of, I don't know, support Zerglings. Instead, he decides to go into a Twilight Council. So once more, it'll be MaxPax playing the flying units. Possibly go into, I would imagine, at least... Well, no, actually, not the case. He's already going to Twilight Council. I thought he was going to go into Phoenixes, but this is just a single Oracle for now, and then a transition away straight up towards Blink once more. It's interesting how there's no, like, default go-to build order for any of the matchups. Aliens, though, being a little bit obnoxious, but obviously there's plenty of unit production here for the players in red. Still, though, we have a couple of Adepts over here being a nuisance. Probes and that Stalker are going to be able to clear out those Adepts. There was a huge stasis ward in the meantime in the back. Those probes must have been hiding from the Hellions, and then they accidentally found themselves stasised. A little unfortunate, but very recoverable. Big economy dip for sure, though. 9 workers, 10 workers now have gone down in total, as the Hellions actually have found even more damage. Stasis Ward inside of the main base of the Zerg player too. Not as effective, but so far, a really good early game effort here from the players in blue. Hellions are actually quite risky. I always kind of feel like Hellions in general are quite risky, but especially in 2v2, because you could just be in a situation where the opponents just have a bunch of stuff, and the Hellions do absolutely nothing. They skill terribly towards the later stages. Now, MaxPax has decided to go straight into the gold base. There are some Zerglings out, and Elazer will see this right now. But is there anything he can really do about it? I don't think so. And it is important here for Elazer and Skillous to stop this in its tracks, because those golden minerals, they do return a lot of additional resources, and MaxPax's macro is always excellent. He's not going to be stacking up any cash. Once more, by the way, no Roach Warren here for Zerg. Terran now building up the third command center too, going into the double engineering base here, so Spirit is looking to slow this game down a notch. He's like, great, I've done my early game aggression. Whew, let me sit back and macro for a little bit. Not a bad idea, but it is going to give the players in red a lot of time to come back. And even though Elazer did take some damage, like, you know, 4 drones is not bad at all. When you skip the Roach Warren like that, you effectively already save yourself like 3 drones worth of, you know, economy, right? Like, it saves you a little bit. And when there's no follow-up pressure, well, I guess there are with these Banshees, but no real committed push, it can sometimes bite you in the butt when you do get that early game advantage. Cloak Banshees, though, are going to sail away again. Okay, Blinky Boys over here at the front too now for MaxPax. How many Stalkers are there here for Skillous? He's got them, but they're not nearby. He's busy defending against those Banshees. Also judo to the fact that Zerg doesn't have a whole lot of anti-air. He's only got 3 Queens and a Hydralisk Den, but that's about it. Keep in mind that Hydras are not particularly useful until their upgrades are done. Going straight into a Lurker Den right now is Elazer as well. But at this point, the golden minerals have kicked in real nicely. 4th Nexus coming up. 3rd Command Center flying on over towards that low ground too. Looks like Spirit and MaxPax have firm control in this game right now. Finally, by the way, Stimpack and Combat Shields are finishing. These upgrades are all very slow and very late, but they're done, and that's the most important thing. Then again, the light at the end of the tunnel here for Elazer and for Skillous is certainly those Lurkers. They are going to be Lair Tech Lurkers, so not quite Hive. Not nearly as powerful, but they're very good at stopping this type of aggression, although they're not here yet. And that's the real problem. Spirit and MaxPax have once more joined forces, and they're the ones, well, playing a big macro game, but then also simultaneously being very aggressive all throughout the game. This is one of the most refined matches of 2v2 I've seen so far. Lots of layers. Kind of like a cake, or an onion, or an ogre maybe, but lots of layers here to all of the different aggression, but then at the same time they're also building up their macro. It's lovely to see. Yep, elevator play into the main base. You may have Blink, but I've got a plane. And that means that all of the tech for Elazer is going to go down. The spawning pool disappears. The Hydralisk Den is gone as well. He was still trying to macro, but at this point, Zerg is in a world of trouble. He's got a Lurker Den, and that's it. Lair is even going to fall here in just a moment at this rate. He needs to make a new spawning pool, but he doesn't have the way of easily doing it. I guess he could use some of the money to maybe feed his ally. We do have a Zealot run by 2 up north, though. Skillous is not in the best of positions here either. He decides to recall half of his Stalkers to try and keep that Nexus alive. But finally, a new spawning pool begins. This feels like it's a long time in between the previous one dying and then, well, this one starting up. Elazer now all the way up to nearly 1,000 minerals. MaxPax still with a good, healthy chunk of money in the bank, too. But he's got a ratio that works out well for him, right? Like, with a couple of Warpins, he can continuously be aggressive. There are some Lurkers available, but again, no late game upgrades for them. And Lair Tech Lurkers just don't hit quite the same way. Okay, looks like the Lurkers over here, as a matter of fact, have now moved back. 1 or 2 of them going down. Once more, Max is going back into the main base, and upon seeing that aggressive blink, Elazer realizes that he cannot hold on. Skillous decides to tap out as well. And that means indeed that Team Blue, Spirit, and MaxPax are the ones who obtain the victory in this month's 2 vs 2 tournament.